Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the topic of will the Iran War lead to World War III? So for this video, I'll explain in a simple and straightforward way the question of will the Iran War lead to World War III in a simple and straightforward way so even those who do not understand this topic can understand it clearly. If you want to know if this conflict in Iran that's going on with Donald Trump attacking done will lead to World War III, as well as a life lesson that people can learn from this situation. Okay, so now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the topic of will this situation lead to World War III, I can't say for certain because obviously I'm not God, let alone a supernatural being that can see the future. But from what I can see, absolutely, most likely, no, it's not going to lead to World War III, okay? And the reason why I say that is because the only people that can really push the situation in World War III, and of course World War III would be a terrible war that obviously would make World War I and World War II look like a walk in the park, how terrible it would be, okay? As I'm certain we are all aware. To be quite blunt and honest with you, the simple truth of the matter is when it comes to World War III, which would obviously easily kill 100 million to hundreds of millions plus if whatever happened, okay? The biggest problem with the idea that this Iran conflict will lead to World War III, it simply comes down to the fact that the two biggest allies that could actually push us into a world war for Iran, Russia and China, are definitely not likely to intervene as conflict, okay? First and foremost, okay, Russia, when it comes to their military, as we've all seen from the war in Ukraine, okay, is a freaking joke, okay? Russia in general, as a nation, not hitting on the people, but hitting on the government itself when it comes to how they maintain a nation, in of itself, Russia in that sense is a joke, okay? Let alone the fact that they literally lost over 1 million people. Like, that's World War II level numbers in a span of a few freaking years to a nation that's considered one of, if not the poorest nation in Europe, okay, which is Ukraine, which I know it's definitely not a very rich nation compared to other nations in Europe at all, for that matter, and they're still getting an ass whooping from a nation that is not even rich at all, and they're still trying to claim that they're a superpower, okay? So the truth of the matter is, as you can clearly see from the situation with Russia that's long and a very huge ally of Iran, if they can't even defeat against these Ukrainians, who a lot of them only have like a few weeks of basic training, in all honesty, to be quite blunt and honest with you, and they're able to take on a superpower nation like Russia, when it's one of the poorest, if not the poorest countries in Europe, let alone a very poor country internationally for the world as a whole, then what makes you think they can take on the United States military? Okay? United States military, well, if you're a big fan of America and their politics, let alone the American people, if you're one of those people who say, oh, I hate Americans, they're too arrogant or whatever crap, specifically from British and all that type of stuff, and yada yada yada. One thing they're actually good at, if there's one thing for certain, is they have a good ass military, okay? And the thing is their military, I don't even think it's as amazing as it have you believe that they are, okay? But the thing is they have a basic level of quality requirements, okay? They're a nation that if you serve in the military, they're about 7 days a week, if not 6 days a week for at least 6 months, you're required to put in hours of work, okay? Consisting of physical training, and at some point, marksmanship training, okay? For that matter, okay? They have a basic degree of requirement to be a superpower, to be, for their military, to sum it up, okay? They have a basic degree of requirement, okay? Russia and most of the nations in the world, but specifically Russia, what we're talking about right here, does not have that at all, okay? They don't train their soldiers very well. They don't train them, which is why they lost literally over 1 million men to one of the poorest countries in Europe. Like, come on, man, get real now. And they always make the argument, well, Ukraine's lost a lot of people. But here's the thing, Ukraine at least can make the excuse that they're a poor nation. That's only like 30-something million people, while Russia was considered for the longest time, and still considers itself one of the most richest, powerful nations in the world, and it's over 100 million. Like, how do you lose that many people to a nation that's that poor when you're claiming to be a superpower? Which makes it extremely embarrassing for that matter, okay? So Russia, as you can clearly tell, if not only would, if they were to intervene in Iran conflict and get a real ass whooping from the American troops, if they were to fight against them, the truth of the matter is, as you can clearly tell, they're already stressed out dealing with the Ukraine conflict. So the chances that they're going to even invade Iran in order to protect it from the Americans, or in other words, intervene in Iran, is very unlikely. You're going to get a real ass whooping from not only Americans, but more specifically, they're too distracted with Ukraine to actually deal with the situation, okay? So if they can't even do Ukraine, what makes you think that they're going to put their time and energy into taking on the Americans? Because they know they're going to get an ass whooping. So in short, the idea that they're going to directly intervene is extremely unlikely, okay? And that's my first point, okay? The second country that obviously would intervene would be China. And China, the chances that they would actually help Iran, specifically when they have their own issues, specifically with their issue they have with Taiwan, let alone the fact that, they are having issues with Japan now again, because of course Japan is now becoming militaristic again under Sanai Takaichi, or whatever her name is. I think it's Sanai Takaichi, okay, who's an ultra right-wing nationalist Japanese president who literally believes that Japan did no wrong during World War II, which of course obviously is a very sensitive topic because Japan committed extremely terrible atrocities against the Chinese people during the Meiji restorations all the way up to World War II, which China's still very pissed off about. So the thing I'm trying to get at here is that they're very distracted with dealing with issues in their own region, whether it's Taiwan or of course Japan. The threat of Japan being militaristic again. It also comes down to the fact that, as well, just to add to that, when it comes to the issue, and of course, the idea that China is going to intervene. Why would China, intervene in a nation Iran that obviously would have plunged on, let alone the world, into a major world war, for that matter? To be honest with you, when China actually surprisingly has been doing quite well. Like, when you look at China, to be quite honest with you, China is doing well, okay? They're not doing as amazing as I'd have you believe they're doing, or even as great, projection-wise as they were doing in the late 2000s when everybody was hyping up, oh, China's going to be the next superpower. Their growth has stalled quite a lot since then, which in other means they're not as growing as rapidly as they were back then. But at the same time, they're still doing relatively well. The economy is doing well. Yes, there's a lot of social issues in China, but they're overall doing relatively well, to be quite honest with you. So the idea that they're going to do something like invade Iran, to be quite blunt and honest with you, in order to, of course, protect them when they're doing so well, actually. And of course, they have other issues they're dealing with in Asia that's, of course, a major distraction to them, is just very far-fetched. It's already been proven throughout human history that when nations are doing well, they're less likely to fight wars for that matter, okay? Especially the fact that why would they fight a war when the biggest dream of China in recent history, specifically, of course, after the century of humiliation, was, of course, the idea of course, being able to become the next world superpower. Because historically, centuries ago, China actually at one point was literally the world's richest country. Okay, so why would they jeopardize their dream that they've been dreaming about for easily over 100 plus years? After China took an extreme amount of embarrassing situations in the 1800s, let alone to the early part of the 1900s, for that matter. And obviously, they want to succeed and become what they used to be a long time ago. When, obviously, to be quite blunt and honest with you, why focus on fighting a war for Iran, a nation like that, when they could focus on developing themselves? And that's the truth of the matter. So in short, China's just going to do what a lot of communist nations do, okay? They talk a lot, but when it comes to getting shit done, they are the biggest freaking wimps, okay? It doesn't mean you underestimate them. As the saying goes, never underestimate your opponent, ever, okay? Ever underestimate your opponent, ever. But even still, the point is, as long as you have America, which America, every time they fight anything, they always put 100% effort. into something, at least when it comes to kill ratio, at least if there's one thing they focus on, maybe not necessarily strategy, but when it comes to kill ratio, they put a lot of effort, okay, which obviously would devastate China significantly, you know, for that matter, and have obviously jeopardized them from becoming the world's next number one superpower, for that matter. To be quite honest with you, the truth of the matter is, obviously, they're not going to attack because they're going to lose everything that they've been gaining in recent years. So now that I've mentioned that, when it comes to debunking the idea that this is going to start World War III, there's a lesson to learn from this topic, okay, which I said I was going to discuss, okay? And a lesson to learn about life, whether it's on a personal level or even on a national level, like obviously in the case of like China, which is a nation for that matter, is that the people who talk the most shit are usually some of the weakest people and the less likely to actually do things, okay? And that's a lesson people to learn about life. So, in short, to sum it up, do not be afraid of China. Keep your eye on them, like any person would, for that matter, but don't think they're going to do anything, let alone Russia, okay? They talk a lot, but they don't really do shit. And that is the truth, and I hope you learned something from this video, and that's all to say. So, we put them out. Bye.